Namaskar. We have privilege to welcome you all to the webinar hosted by Kutch Corporate Forum, popularly known as KCF, and is powered by learned speaker Shriman Amrish Chheda, Chairman and Managing Director of Masterclass Training and Consultancy, LLP. Friends, Amrish Bhai is very vibrant personality, and hence we have put up his detailed resume PPT at the end of the presentations. Kutch Corporate Forum is a well-known NGO to boost and to enhance corporate culture established in the year 1995, celebrating its silver jubilee year this year. In this ever-changing world, one thing is constant, and that is change. We at KCF wants to empower the change for better tomorrow. Let us, friends, all join the journey of survival and the revival with श्रीमान श्री अमरीश भाई छेड़ा. अंत में दोस्तों, आप सावधान रहें और परम कृपालु परमेश्वर आपको एवं आपके परिवार को सुरक्षित रखें. ये प्रभु चरणों में प्रार्थना के साथ मैं अपने वाणी को विराम देता हूं. थैंक यू.
Can we have the slides, please, Vivek? Good evening to everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Kutch Corporate Forum webinar, Navigating Your Business Through Current Storms. Ladies and gentlemen, let me assure you that this session is not going to be a Gyan sharing session. This is going to be a session to write down, to define action plans. I'm going to give you four specific strategies and 4 specific actions. So 4 plus 4, 8 actionable plans. And I wish that you start with a pen and paper, note it down. It'll help you while preparing your own plan. If you don't have a paper, if there is a person sitting next to you, please write down on his shirt, with his permission, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin right away on this webinar on the question of how to navigate your business in current circumstances. Let's start. Next slide, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question and you please write down the answer on the chat box. What is the only objective of a captain whose ship is caught up in a vicious storm? Remember, direction is not important. Please write down your answers. Next, Vivek. The only objective of the captain of a ship that is caught in a vicious storm is survival. Surviving the storm, taking the ship to the shore along with all the passengers, all the materials without much damage to the ship. That's the only goal, ladies and gentlemen. If you or your business is caught up in a storm, the only goal at this point in time, perhaps for next 6 months, is going to be survival. And thereafter, for next 6 months, is going to be revival. So let's go to the next slide, please. Vivek, I need you to be fast. Here is another question, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to write down your answers on the chat box. Which kind of companies are most worried about the future? Think about it. Which kind of companies are most worried? Please write down your answer in the chat box. Restaurant, someone is saying non-essentials, real estate, travel, retail, those who are not prepared. Okay, so we are flooded with answers here. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the answer. Vivek, those companies which are without cash reserves for working capital for at least 3 months, perhaps maybe 4 months to 5 months to 6 months. So if you're a company that has been operating since 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years or more, and if you don't even have reserves for 3 months or 4 months or 5 months or 6 months of tiding over a vicious storm, then there are questions to ask. Maybe you need to relook at your business model all over again, because it's not a good situation that you have been in business for more than 3 years or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, and you don't even have cash to tide over some calamity. Who is to blame for this situation, ladies and gentlemen? Is it COVID? Is it God? Is it nature? Is it China? Is it World Health Organization? Is it media, which is going hyper? Is it the industry? Is it your clients? Is it the government? Is it your team? No, ladies and gentlemen, you know the answer very well. Please write down the answer. Who is to blame for this situation? We ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, are to blame for this situation. We need to realize it, we need to accept it, and we need to learn never to make this mistake again ever in our life and in the life of our companies. Next slide, please. Everyone is saying self, myself. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's understand why is this happening. You know, since 2014 Earth Day, since then until now, every year on the Earth Day, on my Facebook, on company's Facebook, I put up this quotable quote of mine every year. When everyone is saying save Earth, my quote takes exactly the opposite view, and it speaks from the point of view of the Mother Earth. And the quote goes like this: humans, don't worry about you destroying me. I have been there for millions of years, and I will be there for millions of years more. Don't worry about me. You better worry about yourselves, because if you don't mend your ways, your race will be wiped off. This is what I've been posting on every Earth Day. Will we humans learn at least now? Will our businesses need to adapt? Please write down yes or no as an answer. Each businessman, this is a serious question that you need to ask yourself about your business, because your clients, your customers are going to be completely changed people. When the world opens up, this is going to be a very important aspect, ladies and gentlemen. So most of the answers, Yash Mehta is saying yes. Let's go to the next slide, please. Our businesses definitely need to adapt. What are the key challenges for business and industry? You all have been deliberating over this for more than 1 month, and you have heard many speakers in many seminars. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But the key challenges are like order cancellations. There's no sales revenue. It's not sure when the sales revenue will start for many sectors. Outstanding payment collections are getting delayed. No cash for the month of April, May, and June. Maybe you have made the salary for March, and maybe you are ready with the salaries for April, May, and June. But most businessmen are finding it difficult even to cover the fixed costs and salaries in the absence of the revenues. Post lifting of lockdown, another question is, how do I ensure safety of my customers, safety of my staff, my own safety, etc.? And the most important key question that everyone has in their mind about their sector, or about their business is when will the customers start coming back? Business is completely at standstill. Next slide, please. Which categories will recover faster? Now that's a moot question for every businessman, for every entrepreneur, for every industrialist. The sectors that contracted the least will recover faster. Now during the lockdown, it was tested out that there have been some sectors which are not much affected, or on the contrary, these are the sectors which have actually grown during the lockout. For example, compulsions like utilities, like electricity, internet, insurance, these sectors are either not affected or actually have increased their business. Necessities like food, groceries, cleaning products, sanitizers, these are the sectors which are either not affected or they are witnessing growth during the lockout period. In fact, Mr. Sodhi, the managing director of Amul, the GC, MMF, the cooperative, in his interview yesterday, he said that paneer as a category has witnessed 100% growth, Tetra Pak milk has witnessed 50% growth, and there's 20% growth in butter, ghee, and several other products. There is expected to be faster recovery relatively in the next 3 to 6 months in categories which are essentials, essential FMCG, pharma, which is relevant pharma, diagnostics, IT, online commerce, digital economy. These sectors are expected to recover faster. Some retail segments also will start seeing festive season related buying picking up, but people certainly will be more cautious and they may not splurge. The near-term recovery is expected in 6 to 9 months in sectors which are related to cement, infrastructure, certain metal companies related to infrastructure. These may benefit from the government thrust and the projects to create jobs for people who lose jobs, for the unemployed people. And on the balance sheet of these companies, they may perhaps have to take a hit of 25 to 35% during the entire financial year 2021, despite the government help in increasing the spending for the infra. Longer term recovery, unfortunately, is expected for a few sectors, like it could be 12 to 24 months in sectors like real estate, auto industry, hospitality industry, travel and tourism, airline industry, for example, expensive dining out. Now, people are likely to avoid crowded areas for a longer period of time, and they will certainly avoid discretionary spends for quite some time. So this, ladies and gentlemen, the world has changed. When the world opens again, we are not going to see the same world which we left behind. There is a tectonic shift happening in consumer behavior. And as a businessman, we have to understand that kind of tectonic shift happening and prepare ourselves. And I'm going to give you some action steps for that very soon. Next slide, please. New normal for the trading community. If you are a trading community, if your business is in trading, it's very important for you to realize that customers will be seeking more value at a lower price. Customers will become more demanding. Margins will be certainly under pressure for a long time. Middlemen over a longer period of time may be replaced by online technology platforms. Employees will be looking to work from home option, and maintaining productivity levels will be a challenge for many companies which do not have organized structures, systems, policies, processes, MIS, training, performance appraisal, and review systems. In other words, you will have to get organized. You cannot any longer operate as unorganized sector. The sooner you organize as a company, the better it will be for you, for the changed world. Next slide, please. Let's look at what will be the new normal for manufacturing community. If you are in manufacturing, the key is your operations need to be more organized. Why? Because when the factories reopen, there will be lot of laws which will govern the reopening. Social distancing, temperature checking, wearing of masks, etc. will be made mandatory in factories and offices for quite some time. Speed of labor-oriented processes will reduce because of the distance. Gradual increase in percentage capacity utilization may be allowed. So you may be asked to operate at 50% capacity initially, and gradually you may be allowed to increase the capacity. Challenge in calling and retaining the migrant labor in initial months. People who have gone back to their villages, it will take time for them to come back. Their families will be holding them back for a little longer to ensure their safety. To produce the same quantity, you may have to work more shifts or more lines or both to be able to reach your full production capacity. Wherever it happens, you will not be able to do it with the same kind of staff or the same kind of shifts, same number of shifts. Selling piled up inventory at discounts to unlock cash is what many manufacturers are going to resort to. So competition is going to be quite tough. Increasing productivity per machine would be the key to recovery, and therefore start looking at automation so that the productivity per machine increases. Automation will increase even in packaging, loading, unloading, etc. Productivity levels will be a challenge for many companies, again, which don't have organized structure, system, policies, processes, MIS, training, performance appraisal, and review system. Ladies and gentlemen, the writing on the wall is very clear. You will have to organize yourself. You will have to operate yourself as a more professional, as a more organized company if you have to survive. Now, I can see many questions which have come up on the chat. We are going to have a question and answer session at the end of my presentation. So please start putting your questions. There is a team which is assembling these questions into different buckets, and some questions we will try to answer as many questions as we can. Ladies and gentlemen, take your pen and paper, start writing down the action steps. Now you might think that it's already there. The plan is already there. It may be there in your head. Doesn't mean that it's exactly there in the same way in all your associates, your partners, your managers, etc. Okay, it's always a good idea to write down the plan with pen and paper or on an Excel sheet, and then go ahead and execute that plan. So please, ladies and gentlemen, I request you, write it down. I'm going to give you 4 strategies and later 4 more action steps. So totally, I'm going to give you 8 action steps that you need to consider in order for taking your company through this storm. First 6 months, the objective is merely going to be survival and business continuity. And the next 6 months, the objective is going to be revival. So the first strategy, the immediate response strategy number 1, it's a bitter pill. You have heard it from all the speakers in various seminars. You have read it everywhere. Reduce cash burn, conserve cash. You know it, but you need to start writing down in your plan. You need to see which are the overheads, which are the expenses, which are the fixed nature of expenses, which you can control, which you can reduce to conserve cash. There's no more time, ladies and gentlemen. Next 15 days, you are going to be at home. Your staff is going to be at home. This is the time to actually put it on paper. It is the time to act. Now, how do you do that? First, you start creating scenarios. You create what you think is going to be your scenario for your business or for your industry. Call it scenario A. I request you to also create scenario B. Call it worst case scenario. We may not need that. We may not take it out. That particular plan, we may not need to take it out, but you need to be prepared. Just in case if the recovery is not V-shaped, but is U-shaped, or for your sector, the recovery is W-shaped, and if the worst happens, and if there is a relapse of COVID virus in the winter months in the Western countries, and if the world is again affected until the medicine is found and until the vaccine is found, There is a danger. So create a worst case scenario, prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But be ready to navigate the storm. You need to scale down. You need to strip down. The last decade, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, was all about scaling up. This decade, starting financial year 2021 and for next 10 years, is going to be, the theme is going to be sustainability. Sustainability of your family, of your business, of your career, sustainability of the society, sustainability of the industries, sustainability of the country, sustainability of the world, sustainability. Most important part will be sustainability for the Mother Earth. So the next decade is going to be all about sustainability. So scale down, strip down, cut costs, reduce and renegotiate rents and salaries. If your team is fat, if your team size is fat, then you need to trim that, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to survive the ship, there are some tough calls that you need to make. Eliminate unprofitable revenue streams. If there are some revenue streams which are not profitable for you, you need to eliminate them for the next 1 year. Maybe 1 year later, you can revisit them. Reset to zero. This is the best thing you can do. If at all you can do it, whatever, it doesn't matter how old your company is, but if there is any chance that you can reset it to zero, start again as a startup, just as the cricketers who have come back from one long series and then they take rest and then they prepare for the next series. They start, when they get onto the pitch, they start with 0 runs on board. Past does not matter. Past history does not matter. What were the runs scored in past does not matter. It is a new ball game. Every series, every match, every inning starts with 0. So if you are able to do that, that will be the best thing that you can do. You can even consider backward integration, forward integration, wherever you think the revenue can come from right now. If in your sector you are seeing a revenue taking a big hit because of delay in your sector, if it is not an essentials category, then you may want to consider diversifying into some area of activity, using your staff, using your infrastructure, using your office and resources, at least for generating some revenue for some time, until either it becomes a permanent revenue stream for you, or at least it allows you to sail through this storm. You will, all segments of businesses and industry will need to innovate. Can you guess which of these two guys will be able to survive? The ones with closed mind or the ones with open mind? Paras Shah and Mohit Bajaj, Rajesh Thakkar, they all say the one with open mind. Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen, it's a no-brainer. Can we have the presentation back, please? Can we have the slideshow, please, Vivek? Yes, so you will have to have immediate response strategy number 2, the harder pill. The previous pill was a bitter pill. This one is a tougher. This is a harder pill. You will need to innovate. You will need to adapt. All the speakers in various webinars have told you, but have you already done that? Have you sat down on the strategy board, on your drawing board, to see what are going to be the innovations from your company? If not, this is the time to get back to your strategy board. This is the time to get back to your drawing board and think which are the areas where you can innovate, which are the new products or service categories that you can launch, or where can you cut the frills from, which are the products and the services that you want to discontinue for the time being. You want to put them on hold, reduce the frills, make only the essentials available for your customers and for your industry, and reduce costs for the customers. Next slide, please. I'm going to give you some examples of innovation, and one of the examples that comes to my mind, and we are going to see it in this video, Hikvision fever screening solution, almost mandatory for all establishments, offices, factories, public places. And this company was so quick to launch. high vision fever screening solution. It's an Indian company, ladies and gentlemen. Can we play the video? Temperature screening happens with the help of a thermal camera. So that was so quick, ladies and gentlemen, such a quick launch for a solution which is going to be required by all large offices and factories and campuses and government offices and whatnot. Let's go to the next slide, please. Example 2 for innovation. People have started manufacturing PPE kits, personal protection equipment kits, and they are so fast. It's already launched by so many companies. Next slide, please. Can we be quick in our slide changeover? Example 3, smart distance awareness device. That's something which you keep on your counter and it alerts you if someone is coming too close. You can define the distance, 6 feet, 5 feet, or whatever it is. And this could be so useful for retail, restaurants, and many other industries. People have been so quick to come up with these kind of gadgets to ensure the safety of the staff on one hand, and ensure the safety of the visitors or the customers on the other hand. Next slide, please. Example number 4 for innovation is a kiosk in malls and large campuses where large crowds generally gather. So this is a kiosk to view crowd status at a glance. So if you are a visitor to a mall or if you're a customer and you want to go to a particular store, you can actually see beforehand where the crowds are, and you can avoid the crowds and you can go into stores which are not crowded. Fantastic innovation, so quickly launched already. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the speed at which people are responding. The question is, what about you? Next slide, please. Let's see the example number 5. There's a company in Brazil. They quickly launched a platform that connects people or professional or employees that are laid off with companies which need such people. Quick service, quick platform to help tide over a huge unemployment crisis. Next slide, please. Example number 6. If you have a store, then you can launch click and collect. Because if people are going to wait for a longer time to come to your store because they are hesitant, then this is a service that you can innovate and quickly launch. People can place the order on your website, on the online platform, okay? And they can come to the store quickly to try it out, to look and feel, and quickly connect and quickly check out. So, this is a very good idea. Click and collect is a very good idea for sectors where consumers may not be going too soon. You can encourage them to come too soon because they won't have to spend a lot of time in your stores. Next slide, please. Retail industry in particular, and since our community, Kutchi community, and many other entrepreneurs here are from retail industry, I have taken I've made a special effort to think about the retail industry, and it will have to ask itself some tough questions. I have listed out 3 tough questions for the retail industry. The first question, ladies and gentlemen, is how to bring back customers to my stores once the lockdown is eased. You will have to create extraordinary value to be able to do that. You may have to issue free shopping vouchers once the lockdown is eased. Shopping voucher where, a certain percentage, 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees off on a purchase of 2,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees, something like that. By July, customers may start coming to garment and accessory stores. Large stock clearances are expected big time discounts on apparel, footwear, fashion. Many of our clients from these industries are saying that we are expecting a lot of cash discount going up to as high as 50%, so that the retailers are able to collect cash, to help them tied with the cash flow challenge. Profitability is not the question. Survival, cash flow is the liquidity, is the only key challenge. And therefore, businesses might sell their goods, retailers might sell their stocks at heavy discounts. Once the lockdown is opened up periodically for different sectors, and that's what is expected. The second major question that the retailers will have to contend with is that the supply chain issue, at least for the next 2 to 3 months, because the migrant labor is not going to be able to come back soon, and supply chain is going to be severely stressed. One, because of the lack of availability of labor, and second, the labor which is available will have to observe social distancing. So therefore, the production processes, manual production processes will slow down, and therefore supply chain is going to be under a lot of stress. Now you just imagine an airplane which is completely standstill. If it has to be airborne, how much of torque and effort and speed is needed before it can fly? So that's the same thing which is going to happen to all manufacturing units. From a complete standstill, they will have to really make a lot of effort to come back to production and be able to fill the pipelines all over again. Another challenge that it's a major challenge that the retail industry will have to contend with, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be creating safe spaces. How can you give consumers confidence that they can come to your stores and that the stores are going to be safe? You will have to create safe spaces. Initially, your stores might be operating under restricted hours, like 12:30 to 8:30 p.m., for example. Sanitization is absolutely mandatory, and so is temperature checking for your staff as they enter. And you may have to quickly retrofit your stores, redesign your stores, thoda bahut kharcha karke, thoda bahut changes karke, to make sure that the social distancing is maintained at the stores and consumers perceive it to be safe, so that the consumers feel confident about coming back to your store. But for this, you will really have to make your safety measures highly visible to the shoppers. Shoppers should be able to see that your store has made all the efforts to keep them safe. So for example, you will have to allow limited number of customers at a time, especially for the stores which are very crowded. Usually, you'll have to install hand sanitizer stations at the entry. You'll have to install fever screening thermal camera, the kind which I showed to you. You will have to increase cleaning and sanitization across all your stores. No more in-store sampling for quite some time, because people will hesitate to take something as a sample and eat it right at the store. All associates may have to wear the mask for a longer duration than we can imagine, and keep distance awareness devices, the device like I showed, which beeps the moment someone comes too close to the counter. These are the kind of things that you can keep on the cash counters. And this is how you make the safety measures that you have taken visible to your customers, so that they feel confident of coming back to your stores. Next slide, please. By the way, humans cannot sit at home for a long time, and therefore, eventually they are going to come back to the stores. And I believe that many youngsters are likely to play rebel after the initial maybe a month or two, and they will hit the stores, and they will hit the, they will want to get back to normalcy sooner rather than later in a rebellious mode. Immediate response number 3, strategy number 3, ladies and gentlemen, the survival pill. The first was a bitter pill, then was a harder pill. This one is a survival pill. You may not like to hear what I'm saying, but ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, this is absolutely crucial. This is absolutely essential. And that pill is you will have to recapitalize your company. Just as from time to time, many companies have to recapitalize, either if they are scaling up too fast or if they have incurred a substantial number of, if they have incurred substantial losses and their capital is wiped off, what do? They recapitalize themselves. So in your case as well, you will have to think about recapitalization, and you will need to take the pen and paper and write this down. You'll have to increase relationship and trust with your banks, because without the trust, how will the banker, even if they have more liquidity, but unless and until the banker can trust you, how will they be able to lend to your company? Increase the working capital limits. Of course, you will have to have a good balance sheet, sizable balance sheet to be able to do that. And more support is expected for MSMEs, more than what has already been announced. Increase unsecured loans from friends and relatives. Now you might laugh at it, you might scoff at it, you might think this is impossible, but ladies and gentlemen, all through our lives, there are some people who are our well-wishers, and you may have to keep your ego down, you may have to eliminate your ego, and you may have to seek their help. At such times, our Kutchi community backbone, which was our financial community, financial investment brokers and community, finance-related backbone has been broken much before the lockdown. But friends and relatives are people who are your well-wishers, and if you have been able to earn their trust, and of course everybody is holding on to their cash, but somebody might be able to help you. You need to really work hard at recapitalizing your company in any which way, by way of working capital loans, by way of fixed capital loans, by way of equity infusion. You may have to admit an equity partner. If your company doesn't have enough cash, maybe someone who has lost his business, who is not confident about his business, for example, is something like travel and tourism, which may take a longer time. Such a person wants to invest in your company. You can take an equity partner. If there is no hope left for recapitalizing your company by way of working capital and by way of fixed capital, then perhaps the toughest pill of them all, the survival pill, you may want to merge with bigger or stronger competitor, keep your company alive, at least the products and services alive, keep your employees engaged, and you could perhaps be running that different vertical for that bigger competitor. These are some ways and means in which you can capitalize or recapitalize the company, ladies and gentlemen. If there was ever a time to do that, that time is now. This is not the time for debate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is time for action. This is no more the time for seeking Gyan. You have done enough of Gyan sessions. This is the time for sitting down and making some tough decisions and writing down your action plan, including the immediate response strategy number 3, that is recapitalize the company. Next slide, please. Immediate response strategy number 4, ladies and gentlemen, is a sanity pill that you will have to gulp. Rework on the mindset, your mindset first, because all your people, all your employees are looking up to you. Your vendors, your suppliers are looking up to you to make their payment good. Now you cannot keep everyone at bay. You cannot play the victim for a long time. You will have to assume the baton for leadership. You will have to be calm and calculative, ladies and gentlemen. You'll have to communicate more rather than communicate less. And you will have to inspire people, whether it is your employees, whether it is your associates, whether it is your vendors and suppliers. You will have to be very reasonable human being. Your values are going to be tested during such times. It is said that the times of crisis are the true times where the character and strength of a human being or a business is tested. This is such time. We all will have to be more humble and more compassionate about others, about or the entire ecosystem, and of course about the Mother Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't rework on the mindset, even if you have written down the strategies on paper, it is not going to help, because it's only with a positive mindset that you can navigate this storm. Next slide, please. Great leaders exhibit constant navigation skills during deep crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, I have already given you 4 strategies. And now I'm going to give you 4 additional tasks for next 2 weeks. Please write it down. These are your tasks, ladies and gentlemen. These are the urgent tasks that great leaders must undertake. Next slide, please. Immediate task number 1, it's a practical pill which I am giving you. Task 1 is create scenarios and strategic execution plan for each scenario. As I had already told you earlier, scenario A is the scenario which you are looking at and your team is looking at, and the scenario B is the worst case scenario. You create a strategic execution plan, a survival plan for the first 6 months for both the scenarios. And then you create, along with your team, involve them, create a revival plan for the next 6 months. This is what we at Masterclass have been doing since last 1 full month. We have been having full day webinar sessions where the teams of the clients are joining in, 10, 20, 30, 40 people joining in. We have a full day session for creating a blueprint for survival and then creating a blueprint for revival. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll show you in a moment how that blueprint looks like. I will request Vivek to give me the access. I'm going to share the Excel sheet here. Are you able to see the Excel sheet?
No, Amrish bhai, the screen is not visible.
My screen is not visible? Okay.
There will be a share screen button in the bottom.
Yes. Now is it visible?
Yes, now you're able to see.
Very good. So this is how a blueprint will look like. You have to have a strategic plan. There will be a few components which you, along with your team, have to deliberate upon and create the strategic plan for survival and the strategic plan for revival, and then convert the strategic plan into an actionable blueprint, an action plan. And in this blueprint, you will have several objectives. Each of the objectives will have certain measures. Each of the objectives will have certain targets. Each of the objectives will have certain target date. Each objective will be owned up by somebody in your team. You have to write down their name. Each objective को fulfill करने के लिए, to fulfill each objective, you need to take up 1, 2, 3, or 4 higher level tasks which are prioritized. Rather than doing too many things at a time, a few things, you need to write down those tasks to achieve that particular objective, and you need to then write down the name of the task owner, and then the task start date and the finish date. And every week you may have to conduct a review meeting to track and to check the percentage completion of those tasks. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the methodology that Masterclass follows. You may have to do something like this. I'm stopping the screen share. So over to Vivek. Vivek, can I please request you to bring my presentation back, please? Thank you, Vivek. That was so swift. So immediate task number 1, ladies and gentlemen, is creating the blueprint, make strategic decisions about cost cutting, about innovative revenue models, and about recapitalizing. Put it in the blueprint by timelines. The plan must be in writing and broken down to execution tasks with owners, timelines, and target outcomes clearly defined. Because when you go out in the real world, you may not find the time to be able to navigate unless your blueprint is clearly defined, is written down, all your people are aligned while you are at home for the next 15 days, while your teams are at home. All this can be done. But as you hit the ground, when the lockdown is opened up, you may not have the time to devise this kind of blueprint. Use this time, ladies and gentlemen, more effectively. You will need to prioritize, and you will need to focus on fewer tasks that truly will help you survive. I'm going to finish in the next 5 minutes or so. Let me have the next slide, please. Immediate task number 2 for the next 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, write this down. This is a practical pill. Rework the organization chart. Your existing organization chart is not going to be useful, because during peace times, you require certain type of people, certain type of leaders. And during war times, you require certain other type of people and certain other type of leaders with a different mindset and a different skill set. So you will rework the organization chart, create an ultra lean, not just lean, but an ultra lean organization. How can you do that? You can outsource many functions to other companies so that employees are not on your rolls, which means whenever you need more people, you can outsource. Whenever you need less people, you can, with outsourcing, you are able to manage that without any major fixed costs. So create an ultra lean organization, assign roles to your people. They of course will be performing the regular role, but during the war times, each employee will also have to perform a special role during the war times. And you will have to start training that person for that role. I would highly recommend encouraging self-learning, but as an entrepreneur, as an organizer, as a leader, you will also have to, kind of train them, make arrangements to train them while they are at home for another 15 days. Do it, ladies and gentlemen. Next slide, please. Task number 3, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be create a war room. Absolutely. This is nothing less than a war. A calamity of this nature has never been witnessed in civilized human history. Ladies and gentlemen, create a war room in your company. First, a virtual war room with the help of video conferencing, and then later a physical war room in your company. Select people for that war room, people who have the mindset for quick decision making, for quickly capturing the facts and data, keeping real-time scoreboard of percentage completion of the tasks. And you'll have to have daily monitoring, daily morning and evening stand-up meetings, review meetings every day, even while you are locked out and your teams are locked out. And I would strongly urge you to look up Google and adopt agile execution, adopt the agile principle of working. And you will find that the power of agile will come in very, very handy at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, the next pill that you will have to take, the practical pill, and this is your last task for out of this session, is task number 4, clinical execution. Just as a surgeon who is on the surgery table is absolutely precise, he is absolutely clinical, there is no emotion while he is performing his duty, because his goal is to save the life of the patient. So your goal is to save the life of your company, and along with that, the life of all the employees, in a financial sense I'm talking about. So your execution has to be absolutely precise. It has to be absolutely clinical. You will have to prioritize. You cannot hesitate, because hesitation kills the speed of response. You can over communicate rather than under communicate. I already said this with you, but I cannot emphasize this more. Get and share the facts very fast so that people can adjust the speed of their response. If they don't have the facts and if they don't have the data, they will not be able to make confident decisions. But this period will require continuous navigation. Your ship might go topsy-turvy. It will require decisions very fast as you are going along. Focus on fewer tasks, and there is very little margin for errors, ladies and gentlemen. we all will have to play an A-level game, ladies and gentlemen. Mediocre will not do, ordinary will not do, extraordinary A-level game is what this crisis is bringing up, this opportunity in front of you to really raise your standard and excel by surviving in this period and then reviving your business. And after a year or maybe 15 to 18 months, we will be back in an economy which will again start booming. And thereafter, I see a very, very long period of boom. I've always been buoyant about India. Next slide, please. You will have to go beyond normal, ladies and gentlemen. Survival under the current situation is outside the realm of normal action. Instead of behaving like everybody else in your industry or in your business or in your society or in your family, and instead of hesitating on tough decisions, make quick decisions and take massive action. Ladies and gentlemen, don't waste time while you are at home. Don't think that this is the time to sit at home and use the WhatsApp forwards and so on and so forth. Enough of that. Time to get back to the strategy board. Time to create a survival plan and a revival plan, and the time to create that blueprint. Next slide, please. Because as you will see, blueprint is going to be your most important tool, ladies and gentlemen. The real question is not what will happen to our country, what will happen to our economy in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 years, or in the new decade. The real question is not that. As I said, I'm very buoyant about Indian economy. It will bounce back because of several reasons. Chinese manufacturing, a portion of that is going to move to India because the companies world over will no longer want to depend on only one country, because their supply chain is completely strangled by their dependence on just one country. So companies world over will have learned that lesson, and they are going to look at countries like India, which could be low cost. So business in India will survive, not just because the manufacturing sector will boom, but also because the consumption in India, 1.36 billion Indians, and many of them young, and many of them in the middle class, upper middle class, and lower middle class, they will go back to consumption, ladies and gentlemen. Also, the entrepreneurial energy of India, their ability to come up with jugaad or solutions, is also the sheer spirit of free enterprise that we have in this country, unlike many other Western or Eastern world countries. These are, the fundamentals of the economy. Once we have, this storm is over, once the calm returns, maybe, after 15 months or 18 months, when we start seeing the recovery as a economy, from there, it will boom, and it will boom for a pretty long time. Every year I have said that, next 30, 40, 50 years are going to be very, very good for India. There could be 2 to 3 years of turmoil. This is one such period. And in this period, survival blueprint will be your most important tool, ladies and gentlemen. After listening to me in this session, don't just ignore it. Create the strategy, create the blueprint. Masterclass can help you create the blueprint if you need any help. And ladies and gentlemen, make the most of whatever you can do during this period to come out stronger and solid. Next slide, please. I'm inspired. On my left, you see my wall of fame. This is my study room at my home. And these are the pictures of people who have inspired my thought over a period of time. Ladies and gentlemen, this wall of fame. And on this wall of fame, you will see the pictures of leaders. And one of the leaders is Nelson Mandela. Can I have the slide back, please? Nelson Mandela, as you all know, was in jail for 27 years. When he went inside, he was a young man. When he came out, he was an old man. And he has said that it was one poem which kept him alive. There were many times, because it was imprisonment with hard labor, उनको सख्त मजदूरी करनी पड़ती थी. 27 साल एक काल कोठरी में जीना, सख्त मजदूरी करना. Nelson Mandela said that this poem called Invictus, it's an English poem, it's a Victorian poem, it helped him survive that period of 27 years. I'm going to recite this for you, ladies and gentlemen. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced, not cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance or fate, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll, because I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. Ladies and gentlemen, this is so powerful. I would like to end my speech by saluting Nelson Mandela. हमें तो 21 या 30 डेज का लॉकआउट अपने घर में लोगों के बीच, अपने चहीते लव्ड वंस के बीच में रह के हमें डिफिकल्ट लग रहा है. हमें अच्छा से अच्छा खाना मिल रहा था, अच्छा से अच्छा टेलीविजन, और we had all the facilities in the world. But imagine the man who has lived in a prison for 27 years and he still kept his mission going on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm done. We are now going to have a question answer session. I now call upon the moderator for the evening, Mr. Sanket Ramya. He's a dynamic personality himself, ladies and gentlemen. He has grown his company in the last 7 years by 22 times. That is 2,200%. It's unbelievable the way he has grown this company. Ladies and gentlemen, over to Sanket. Can we give him a big hand, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Whew, that was a power-packed session. I'm sure that would have shaken everyone out of their comfort zone and given you valuable insights and action items. There is a popular Persian saying that this too shall pass. So this too shall pass. There is a silver lining at the end of the dark tunnel, and we all have to search and look out for our own silver lining. Thank you, Ambrish sir, for this power-packed session. Attendees, can I ask everyone to post your questions in the Q&A session section below? I will try to take as many questions as I can, but in the keeping in mind we have limited time, I will only be taking questions which are relevant and most impactful. So please feel free and post questions in the Q&A section. Before I go to question and Q&A session, I would like to thank Ambrish Chheda, Chairman and Managing Director, Masterclass Training and Consulting LLP, for guiding us on how to navigate our business through the current storm. Ashok Shah, Chairman, VTrans Group, for coordinating with Ambrish Bhai and arranging this wonderful webinar. Thank you, Ashok Bhai. Hiren Gogri, co-founder Team One Technologies, for technical supervision. Vivek Thakkar, Boomerang Consulting, for executing this webinar. And finally, you, the audience, for attending this webinar and making it a great success. Again, audience, please post your questions in the section below. There were many takeaways in this power-packed session. I would like to summarize them quickly. Amrish sir gave us 4 strategies. First one, to preserve cash. Cash, cash, and cash. Cash is the king in the tough times. Second, innovate. Companies that do not innovate will likely perish. Third one, recapitalize your companies. Fourth one, rework the mindset. Accept the new normal. Sooner we accept, faster we can get to action. Following these 4 strategies, there were 4 action items which were given. He asked us to create 3 scenarios and a detailed action plan for each of these 3 scenarios. Rework organization chart so that you can preserve cash. Create war room with live dashboard. An agile and reactive organization is the one which is the need of the hour. And focus on quick and decisive execution. So thank you, Ambrish sir, for your power-packed session again. I would like to conclude before I go to Q&A. COVID is a truly black swan moment, and humanity does not know how to react in this scenario because this has never happened. Never ever in the human history has world come to standstill all at once. So we all have to be agile, quick. However, with right strategy and execution, Indian businesses will stand to gain from this in the long term. So capture your moment, Indians, and go for the kill. So I would like to start with the Q&A session if you're ready.
Yes.
The first question, how COVID affect capitalism and vice versa? How capitalism is responsible for COVID?
Actually, the vice versa is more true. I have been a born capitalist. I believe in capitalism. But many years ago, I wrote a piece of article, and the title was, "This capitalism is not going to work. We need compassionate capitalism." What has happened is this capitalism, which is based on market economy and consumerism and blatant consumption, is going to only deplete the earth. And the mother nature is very, very clear in sending her signals. We as human race will be wiped off if we don't mend our ways, and if we start challenging the very tenets of peaceful coexistence, which our Jainism has and many other religions have talked about so beautifully. Capitalism, as practiced in its current form, will evolve, and COVID is the time for evolution to a more purposeful capitalism. So there'll be more social companies, profit with purpose, rather purpose first and profit later. Profit follows, profit will automatically follow, but profit cannot only be the reason for existence of a company. Companies will have to contribute to the betterment of humanity, to the betterment of the earth, to the betterment of the the ecosystem. And therefore I believe that capitalism that is compassionate towards everyone, towards fellow human beings, towards the animals and the creatures, towards the mother earth, that's the only way to go, ladies and gentlemen. And we will have to slow down on our consumption of absolutely unnecessary things. So yes, Sanket, that was a brilliant question. That's a great opening to the question and answer session. Next question, please.
So there are many questions in general with regards to different industries, retail, manufacturing, and such. So we will go to them later. But there were certain questions with regards to strategy in general, which I will club all of them together. So there were questions with regards to how do you diversify, how do you organize, create strategy, and how do you implement processes. So if you want to go one by one, how do you diversify?
So yeah, one by one. How do you diversify? So I'm saying that if your business has a fair chance of survival, then you don't need to diversify. If you can manage cash, working capital, and recapitalization, then you don't need to diversify. In that case, I will recommend focus on your current industry. Go through this storm, come out stronger, by using the methodology that I have talked about. And many other competitors are likely to be wiped off or likely to be badly hurt, especially the ones who are not prepared. So when the market rebounds and after revival, when the market, when the consumption for your category starts big time again, you will be well placed. So focus is the key. Diversification only if you are in an industry where there is no chance of revenue, for example, for a longer period of time. So if you are in something like that, you can diversify. And the areas for diversification to look at is, you will have to think, what is it that you already have as an entrepreneur? You have experience, you have knowledge, you have teams, you have certain ability to develop system structures and processes. With all of this and whatever resources you have, which are the areas of necessity which are going to give you immediate revenue, immediate turnover? Which are the need gaps? Which are the areas where industry has not innovated fast enough? you saw how fast people were in innovating. So if you can come up with answers that how do I generate quick revenue if there is no other source of revenue than through innovation and through diversification, you can keep the assets that you have are your infrastructure, your experience, your vision, your dynamism, your speed, your team, and quickly come up with a plan. Little bit of resources will still be needed, and you can start anything in a startup mode. You don't have to think of setting up very large, huge factories and plant. Startup mode, start with whatever revenue you can earn. So that's how I would say that you handle diversification. You can look at adjacent industries. You can look at forward integration and backward integration. If at all there is revenue generation happening in those industries sooner, then you can look at those areas as well. Next question. Can you remind me of the next question?
So it was based on how do you organize your company, create strategy, and set up processes and implement them.
So these are two separate questions. How do you create strategy? Now, creation of strategy is a process. There is a science in creating a strategic plan. Why is it that some companies continue to succeed year after year after year, decade after decade after decade, and some companies die, despite all the experience and so on? So the difference is strategy. The difference is speed of response. The difference is team. So all that put together is called the strategy. So there are various aspects of strategy. There is corporate strategy, there is marketing strategy, there is operation strategy, there is IT strategy, there is HR strategy. There are a lot of things. Okay, all of these things. There is a product strategy, there is a branding strategy, there is a sales strategy, there is a distribution strategy. All of these things have to come together. I think the best thing is to take the help of some guide or some mentor, somebody who you believe in can help you develop a strategic plan and an execution plan. We at Masterclass do that day in and day out. So there is enough material available on Google. You can read up. Making of the strategic plan actually requires certain level of expertise and experience. So therefore, being guided is always better. Being learned is always better. And if you have never done it before, look up YouTube and see how it is being done. Or take help of people who have already done it, or take help of mentors, whoever mentors you trust. Go to the mentors. If at all there was ever any time, this is the time that you need to be in very positive mindset and with very positive mindset people who actually have the ground level experience to be able to help you withstand the boat. People who have never gotten into business themselves and have no experience of this nature, maybe they may not be the right people to take advice from. Let me answer the question.
Yeah, very well done.
Let me answer the question about processes. Now, creating processes within an organization is also a task, and it needs to be handled with a lot of expertise. So first, you have to see which are the key important processes. You have to list down the processes, and you have to see what are the benchmarks in the industry, how others are doing it, or how your company is doing it better than them. You have to list it down. So, for example, if the process was about making a pav bhaji banane ki recipe, to jo recipe banate hai, these are the steps. So, any cook who uses the same steps, the same material, and uses the same recipe is likely to turn up the pav bhaji which is going to test the same over and over again, even after 5 years, 10 years. So, in the same manner, whichever task or processes that your organization must do, if these are written down and your people are trained to conduct those processes exactly in the same manner, then every year, year after year, you will see people following the same processes. But you need to be process oriented, and your team needs to be process oriented. It can be done, and I don't think now there is any alternative to that. Unorganized sector में आप बहुत ज़्यादा देर रह नहीं सकते. This is the best time to organize yourself. Next question, please.
So related to this only, the same theme, what is agile execution is the question.
Agile execution is, creating teams which are self-powered, self-governing team, where boss डंडा लेके उनके पीछे नहीं खड़ा है, लोग उनके पीछे फॉलो अप नहीं कर रहे हैं. The team is a cross section of people from various departments, and of course some people from the same department. These teams are put together, and tasks, objectives or the goals are given to that team, and that team quickly creates a plan, and they cover each other in case somebody is absent on some day. And the culture is that rather than the bosses following too much, rather than the bosses micromanaging, because micromanagement is a waste of time, money and energy for the entire organization, let me tell you that. So this is not the time. People don't have to be followed up upon. People who know their roles and responsibility, they have to execute. There's no question of following up. So agile is a process. You can look it up on Google. I cannot really answer more than what I have. In the interest of time, we would like to take many more questions, but enough material is available. And in the agile process, there is a morning meeting. It's a stand-up meeting where people report the percentage completion of their task to the meeting leader. Even the meeting leaders keep changing so that everyone gets an opportunity to learn how to be a leader and how to be a manager. And they point out each other's mistakes and so on. It's phenomenal at quite a few places at masterclass, in our own offices. Only the Best, which is my startup venture. It has a unicorn dream. It's a home shopping platform. We have implemented it there. At many masterclass clients, we have implemented the agile process to great effect. Yes, Sanket, next question, please.
Sir, since MSME are the worst hit in the current situation, the question is what packages from the government are expected to support MSME?
Now, frankly speaking, it would be improper to think that only MSMEs are in trouble or that only MSMEs are weak. There are large organizations whose balance sheets are not weak and they have 10,000 people on the payroll. They are also facing the same situation. Or they are sitting on a pile of stock, which they have not been able to convert into cash because of the lockdown. They are also facing the same situation. Only their trouble is bigger. So first, let's understand that that all companies, whether small or big, those who do not have cash reserves to tide over these issues for the next 3 to 6 months are all in the same boat in a way. What packages the government is likely to come up with? Government already has come up with, first was a series of measures announced by the banking industry. RBI announced a series of measures number 1 and series of measure number 2. The objective for both was to pump in a lot of more liquidity into the banking sector. That needs to actually percolate down to various stakeholders, various customer segments. So the corporate sector, non-corporate sector, agriculture sector, various sectors. Just like that, the SME sector also will be a beneficiary. But however, percolating it down to the bank, it's actually going to be a function of what kind of relationship you have with your bank. Whether your company has been able to earn the trust of the bank. Because if the banker is not going to be able to trust you, or if your balance sheet does not have any strength to borrow, then what is the banker going to do? I think this is, frankly speaking, this is not the time. I mean, we may all think that government should do everything. Let me tell you, government can at best help your business for 1, 2 or 3 months. Government cannot help your business for next 3 months or 9 months or 12 months. You are supposed to be doing that. So rather than, if I were you, rather than waiting for government help and dole and subsidy and so on, whatever comes, you make the best use of it. But rather than depending on that and waiting for that, it is best that you take measures as an entrepreneur, as a tough leader, some hard decisions, some decisions about capitalization, some decisions about liquidating your own old stocks at a lower price. When things do open up, these measures will go a longer way. Now tell me one thing. There are about 1 crore MSMEs. Even if you think that the government has to help 1 crore MSMEs, there may be more. There may be 5 crore MSMEs. But if I eliminate the micro, which will require a completely different set of treatment, but let's say 1 crore SMEs, do you think even if government has to give 1 lakh rupees worth of benefit, it will require 1 lakh crore Do you think government has that kind of money only just for one sector, that is SMEs? Don't expect. Government already has announced 50,000 crore worth of packages in its second tranche through RBI. So, and more of such measures will be announced as we go forward. But my humble suggestion to you will be, take all the benefits that the government is able to offer, but start working on your own strategy, your own execution plan in a manner in which I have explained here. Next question, please.
Very well said, sir. You have to depend on yourself and not wait for government to come and rescue you, because I think it's a far-fetched dream, and in the short term you'll have to survive by yourself. Even if there is a trickle effect, it will take time to come down. So
Right.
there are some investors in the community. They would like to know which are the industries that are looking attractive.
So I have already covered this in the initial slide, where I have covered sector-wise. So if there is, sectors which are based out of necessity or compulsion, like utilities are compulsion. Internet is almost like a compulsion now. It's like oxygen. So IT industry or sectors which are necessities like food and grocery, packaged foods, ready to eat, ready to cook foods, snack foods. People will be more wary of loose foods now. And in India, the unorganized market for foods is still a big 60%. So there's a huge opportunity to organize that, coming up with various products. So pharmaceutical, but I have already talked about it. So I would recommend, that the videos of the webinar be made available, and you can look at the opening slides, one of the slides where I have actually done a sectoral analysis. If you have any particular sector to ask for, you can ask me.
So in the sectors, there was manufacturing was manufacturing, retail. Two sectors have most questions. In manufacturing, one question that is coming up again and again is how do you implement social distancing and take care of safety of workers?
So for that, right from the entrance, you will have to have those stations where with thermal cameras, hike vision जिन्होंने आपका normal camera लगाया है, तो they have that kind of product, and many other camera companies are going to come up with thermal camera products. So temperature measurement happens automatically. As soon as people enter, it quickly tells you if there is a temperature or not. Hand sanitization at the entrance and at multiple places within the factory. Substantial cleaning and sanitation within the factory. Keeping of distances at least 3-4 feet. Now, easier said than done, but there is no other alternative. You will have to create that, because government is going to look at compliance very, very carefully. They are going to be sending inspectors. And do you want to do that when forced, or do you want to do that out of your own compulsion of ensuring that no such COVID cases happen within your factory? Because agar ek bhi worker ko ho gaya, then you have had it. Your entire production will go down, my friends. So it is better that you make whatever, wearing of masks has to be mandatory. Absolutely no relaxation. Wearing, taking care of, good manufacturing practices, GMP, ISO वगैरह जिस तरह की organized activities करवाते हैं आपसे, तो maintaining those safety and hygiene standards for food, for for the bathrooms, for your staff and workers, everywhere you will have to maintain tremendous cleanliness, wearing gloves, and so on and so forth. Next question, please.
So there are many companies who are dependent on Chinese imports, directly or indirectly. There are some importers, Chinese importers and traders, who are having this question. And there are some other companies like in retail or others manufacturing who are indirectly dependent on China for their raw materials, etc. So what to expect? What do they do to de-risk their businesses?
So one thing is, China has earned anger of practically the entire rest of the world. Now, whether they like it or not, but the rest of the world is not going to look at China in the same way. They are going to, companies worldwide are going to think about moving their partial manufacturing to some other countries and not be dependent on just one country. Most companies have learned this lesson a very hard way because their entire supply chain got blocked out. So frankly speaking, this is irreversible. Manufacturing will move first to the original country. So if it is USA, USA is first going to see whether they can start manufacturing in USA itself. However, the low cost imperative, and more so during a recessionary trend, low cost imperative might force them not to manufacture in US and look for other alternative sources of low cost manufacturing. And that's where countries like India will benefit. Now, if you are an importer, I would strongly urge you to look at Make in India in whichever industries it is possible. If it is not possible, then perhaps get a Chinese company to come in and invest, in manufacturing in India. Enter into a strategic alliance, or let 5 manufacturers who were buying from China, let an ecosystem which is buying from China come together and encourage 1, 2, or 3 manufacturers, large manufacturers of China, to set up plants in India, but make sure that it is made in India. In fact, I'm not surprised if government is going to increase the import duties substantially. This is a move that Commerce Ministry has been asked to consider just 2 days back, and the import duties for anything imported from China, the import duty may be exorbitantly high. That kind of thing the government can come up in various sectors. So it's not going to be easy. If you are reliant only on Chinese imports, you will have to start looking for alternative sources across the world, and also start thinking about creating manufacturing capacities with or without the help of Chinese or other manufacturers of the world. Yes. Yes, Ankit. That's my view.
There was question regarding real estate vertical. So considering the market, will sale of property would be the right strategy to generate cash, much needed cash?
Absolutely. It's a no-brainer. If you are a real estate player, already there was a lot of stress on the real estate sector as a whole in the country. In Mumbai and in many cities, there is always an oversupply situation. There is a stock which can last for 4 to 5 months, even if no new flats come up. So already the sector was under distress, yet the prices were not coming down. But I think now, how many people you think will be investing in real estate, whether they are actual users? Most actual users are likely to postpone their decision. They are likely to wait out at least for 12 months to 24 months. The real estate sector is going to go through turmoil. There is very few people may be wanting to consider buying a home at this juncture. They would want to be more secure. They would want to be more safe. They would hold on to their cash positions tight. They would not want to take undue risks of EMIs and so on and so forth. They will want to see how the employment situation pans out. So real estate sector, again, the remedy is you will have to capitalize yourself. And yes, if you're holding stock, if you're holding inventory, cash is better than profits. The next 6 months or next 1 year, or for you, next 1.5 years or 2 years are not going to be about managing profits. The next few years, 1 or 2 years, are going to be about managing liquidity. If you stay liquid, you survive. What is the point in holding the stock when you go down under? So I think, it is easier, it is better that you release the stock, convert it into cash. Yes, Ankit.
So, sir, final question, final 1 or 2 questions. We have 5 more minutes, I think. So one of the common themes during all the question is the cash crunch that is going to follow because the overheads are increasing or going on where the incoming is completely shut down. And keeping this in mind, and a lot of bad debts may also increase. Uh, but on the contrary, the in the unsecured loan segment, the confidence is completely at rock bottom. So given the scenario that you have no cash, you need to raise cash, raise money, but there is no unsecured loan available. How do you raise money?
So I think the formal channels will be the only way out in that sense to raise money. So firstly, for bad debts, I will strongly recommend that if you are sitting on large portfolio of debtors, it is better to go for insurance. There are insurance companies which are taking out policies, which are issuing policies to cover bad debts from good companies. Okay, so from corporate sector companies, from companies whose rating is high, but if, so this is one. Second thing is how to raise cash. Since unsecured loans people are not comfortable with, there are not many people who are willing to lend. So the only options would be, one is the banking channels, the NBFC channels. NBFCs themselves are stressed. So banking channel becomes the most important channel. And for that, you have to have the balance sheet. You have to have your papers strong. You have to have the relation. You will have to build the relationship with the bank. Many banks are going to be supportive. All they want to see is your capacity to pay back, because they don't want to increase their NPAs. If you were in their place, you will also make the same decisions, right? So, at least for next 2-3 months, the banks may be able to help you tied up with little bit of working capital loan and so on and so forth. So that's one area. You could also look at, factoring. That means if you have sold something, then you can get it discounted and get money for that. So you can look at those kind of options as well. And you can also look at options like liquidating your old stocks, liquidating unwanted stocks, even at discounts and so on and so forth. You could also look at vendor financing as one of the ways of financing, which is what everybody is going to resort to by compulsion. But you have to be very reasonable because your vendors also need to be paid. I think all in all, you could also look at, if you are a decently sized company, you could look at SME exchange. You could look at listing in SME exchange. If your fundamentals are strong, of course, it might take time. So if you're looking at a very short-term solution like 2-3 months, then SME exchange is a long drawn-out option. But if not today, tomorrow you may want to consider that. And one more option is the startup exchange. The Bombay Stock Exchange also, and the Bombay Stock Exchange, SME exchange also has a startup exchange. VCNPs are yet another option, but though very tough, because during these times, most of the VCPs are not going to take bets. They are going to wait and watch what is happening. They will not make commitments quickly, but at least you can pitch if your sector is amongst the essentials. If there is a lot of scaling up scope possible in your sector, you might be able to crack a deal, though not very quickly, but over a period of time. But for short term, cash from anywhere, buy, beg, borrow, steal, jo karna pade, but cash to lana hoga. But there are not easy answers. And I think the experts in the financial sector, chartered accountants and financial consultants, take their help. There are companies, if you approach more than whom you know, there is no harm in doing that. Yes, Sanket.
Actually, we've run out of time, but I think we'll take one last
Now,
question.
Ketan Gala is saying we can't steal, sir. Of course, that was that was in a lyrical sense. कहावत के तौर पे जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि beg, borrow और steal. तो मैंने चोरी करने के लिए आपको नहीं कहा. It was just to make a sense that this is the time that you have to get cash anyhow. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to do whatever it takes. Um, So finally, I'll take one last questions because we've not covered professionals. We've covered industries and manufacturing industries and different other businesses, but we've not covered professionals. So there were many professionals. There was CA, CS. There were even lawyers. So how will this COVID impact professionals?
So as far as lawyers are concerned, reputed lawyers who are sitting on big cases, they dictate terms. So I don't think, lawyers are going to uh, be more compassionate. But all other professionals perhaps will have
In
to
the
during this
question, there
period.
was a jokingly mention of the number of force majeure cases and also divorces will increase.
Yes, yes. Actually, I read a report about that. Number of force measures, invocation of such clause will also increase, but number of divorce, unfortunately, number of divorces may also increase because of the lockdown. People not being able to bear with each other. Anyway, jokes apart, professionals will also have to be more considerate. So if the fees were taken in advance by them, maybe they might want to time it out. Maybe they want to allow the industries. Professionals also have. I can understand. I'm myself a professional, so we run a management consulting firm, so we also have our own cash flow needs. So professionals also have their offices to run and rents to pay and people to pay and staff to pay and various other. So professionals will also have to do a balancing act. They cannot be very very strong. अगर वो बहुत ज़्यादा एडवांस में लेते थे तो they might want to take monthly payments for next 3-4 months or 5-6 months as such. As far as their revenues are concerned, I think professional services are like a necessity. So अगर इतने रिटर्न फाइल करने हैं तो करने ही हैं, अगर इतने जीएसटी रिटर्न फाइल करने हैं तो करने ही हैं. So I think their business is not going away. Any other type of professionals, I don't think their business is going away. Unless you are an architect, maybe you will be affected, because how many people will want to renovate their homes right now if you are an interior decorator, or if you're an architect, how many new building projects will come up during this time, next 1 or 2 years. So some of the professional categories will be affected, but many other professional categories will not be affected as far as the revenue or the sales is concerned, but they'll be affected as far as the receiving of cash is concerned. But I think you will have to create a balance. You will have to be a little compassionate. Yes, next.
Thank you, sir. We have run out of time. I think this was the final question. Thank you for your insight. Thank you, KCF, for organizing this wonderful session. We look forward to many such more sessions from KCF. And thank you, audience. I would like to conclude with final lines. This too shall pass. Look for your silver lining.
Okay, I would like to say this. Thank you so much, Kutch Corporate Forum. You are very dear to my heart. And whatever it takes, Masterclass and Amrish Chheda is always there. And in any situation, in whichever way you need, you just give us a command and we'll be there to do whatever it takes. Thank you, Ashok Bhai, for arranging this session at a very quick notice. And thank you the entire Kutch Corporate Forum committee, and thank you all the viewers and listeners. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sanket, and special thanks to Vivek and Hiren Gogri for managing the back end so well. Thanks everyone who is involved. Thank you, Philip Shah. Your comments, your coordination with Ninuji was fantastic. Thanks a lot. KCF, I'm so proud of you. Keep doing these kind of seminars, keep doing these kind of learning programs, and show the light. And I myself have attended a few KCF webinars. Dr. Jagdish Shah's webinar I attended, one more webinar I attended. So while I'm teaching, I'm a student myself. I'm also learning. Every day I'm attending a couple of webinars as well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us.
So there were several requests for the presentation. So kindly write to KCF and get in touch with them. We will get back to you after taking permission from Amrish sir with regards to the documentation.
Yes, yes. There is no copyright on my presentation. You can please share it as much as you want. All that is needed is for our country to bounce back. हमारी mission है at Masterclass, nation building by helping tens of thousands of companies to scale up to the next level. So whatever I will be sharing my presentation verbatim, full copy, you can please feel free to share it wherever you want.
Okay, thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.